We're here today at CES in the NXP booth talking with Tobin Richardson, the President and CEO of the Connectivity Standards Alliance. And I got to tell you, looking around the show this year, Matter is the star of the show. No question about it. So congratulations. You know, you guys in a 3-year period have gone from whiteboard discussions about Matter to putting hundreds of products either here at CES or coming along shortly behind them through the certification pipeline. But that's a remarkable achievement. It's kind of unprecedented to do that in 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a really remarkable journey to get here, and we're just so excited for all of our members who put so much effort into making this happen, and really in the standards world at lightning speed, all things considered. So it's been incredible to see that. We released the spec just 3 months ago. We did a huge launch event about 2 months ago. In that time, over 550 products certified into just an incredible showing here in Las Vegas at CES, and seeing all of the product plans and the announcements continue. It's been really remarkable.
It's incredible. I can't imagine what that must have been like to be in the meeting rooms when you were having some of these discussions, right? There's got to be some war stories. Come on, tell us a few.
It's funny because, you know, I think some folks think of standards as really, you know, some dry parochial work in the background. But when companies get together and define how these networks interact and how these products interact, it is really invigorating. And like you said, there's some pretty tough conversations. So fortunately, that was balanced by a really great commitment from everybody involved to come out at the other side with something that everybody could support and everybody can get behind. And so certainly there are a lot of war stories. There are a lot of, you know, knockdown, drag 'em out fights over what's in, what's out, and that's all appropriate. But most importantly, getting to this point today.
Yeah, you must be quite the politician, or dictator, or cat herder, or something to get all that to happen. I mean, that is a remarkable achievement.
It takes a lot of support, and I think one of the more things that we focus on as a community in the Alliance is this notion of mutual respect. And so we really try to encourage all of our members to approach how they engage in these discussions with the respect for each other, for the companies, for their commercial strategies, as well as what's right for the consumer. And that balance, I think, is something that there are no dictators, but there's certainly some advocates in the room, and that was key and critical.
Well, the level of effort must have been incredible. I mean, I believe you said at the launch event, hundreds of thousands of man hours, and I don't believe that's hyperbole. I believe that. 1,800 pages.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't write an 1,800-page spec without a lot of work, and it was. We have thousands of engineers. Those are the ones that are actively participating, monitoring what's going on, and then that represents hundreds of thousands of hours of actual technical work being put into this. So a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and commitment from great engineers, and what I consider one of the best engineering teams on the planet, because you pull really the best from all of these incredible companies, large and small, that really make up the community of the members.
Yeah, I know a lot of these folks, and they did indeed send their best, which they don't always do. So I guess as an analyst, I have to ask some tough questions, right? It's my job. I have to do that. And there's one question that I keep getting. I posted some stuff yesterday, and this was the #1 response that I got. And it's, does matter matter? In other words, we've for the past 15 years, we've had many different smart home standards covering different aspects of connectivity. Is this just another one? Or how is it different? I think I know the answer to that, but I'd really like to hear it from you.
Yeah, it's the right question, right? I mean, if we're taking on this effort, what is this? And Matter is a unifying standard, right? It is not just another standard. It is bringing together all of these devices in one language. You have other, connectivity standards in terms of radios, and that's great. You need that because not one radio rules them all. But there has to be one language of interoperability, and that's what Matter really delivers. And you won't have the smart home market take off unless you have that. Otherwise, we still sit in these areas where there are so many different ecosystems that define that experience differently to the point that it deprecates everybody else.
Exactly.
And so this is really a unifying standard.
Yeah, and there's been unprecedented industry support. I haven't seen that happen like this with other standards. You have to go back to stuff like Wi-Fi and USB. USB is my favorite example, by the way, for Matter, because it created a plug-and-play standard that many different companies could use to build compatible devices, compatible with PCs and Macs and whatever you happen to have. Same keyboard, same mouse, works the same way. And when you look at the standards that they replaced, like all kinds of weird serial interface plugs and stuff like that, as soon as USB was available, all of the others went away. And so in many cases, some of these older standards that really never achieved market dominance in smart home are going to kind of be like those old serial interfaces. When USB comes along, they all have to adopt, and I think the same thing is going to happen here.
Yeah, USB is a good example in that. And this standard wouldn't be successful without large companies and small and medium in different regions, right? And that's how a standard like this succeeds, is it has to have all the support everywhere. And you can't have different creeks going off in different directions. It's all got to stay together, and that was absolutely critical in getting it started, was having that nexus of companies that said, okay, we're gonna work together, we get it, we understand that this is how we're gonna build this market, and so we all have to join in. And that's why you see now hundreds of companies that joined into the actual effort itself. And you don't see 250, 280 companies participating in one single technical effort. But that's what happened here, and that's the only way that you're going to get the broad adoption and market.
Right. Okay, time for the lightning round. More antimatter questions.
It's all good.
Some folks say it's late, and the device coverage is too limited.
It's in terms of standards, it's lightning fast. In terms of being able to bring a full spec to market in 3 years' time from whiteboard to delivery is really unprecedented. In addition, we added in other things that haven't been done in standards before. You have a full open source SDK online, the ability to use this, not have to understand an 1800 word spec and just download it and use it is something that was really important to us, but that takes time. It takes time to put all of these moving pieces together. The second part that's really important is that this is going to be an evolving standard, meaning we have a strong baseline. 1.0 in terms of completion is out there, but we know that there are many more device areas, many more experiences that are going to need to be defined. And so as we deliver this, we're already on our next update, and we have a twice-a-year update schedule. We'll do basically a spring and a fall release effectively, and in that we'll bring in new features, new updates, learnings from the market as well. And so in terms of the timing, it's absolutely on the right schedule, and it's also built for speed.
Yeah, and it's really smart to build that into your project planning from the very beginning. One of those things that's hard to add later and easy to get right if you do it up front.
Yeah, we know this is not a one and done.
Yeah. Another criticism sometimes is, what about all these apps? Is there going to be one app to rule them all? Or I have a bunch of apps I need to use today. Are they all going away? Will they all be replaced? And if they're not, is that a problem?
Yeah, and this is one of the beauties of a baseline standard like this, right? I mean, if there is one app that you want to use, that's great, but it's up to you. What you need to rely on is that all those devices will interact the way that they're supposed to. And if you want to use an app that you've been using for 5 years, or if there's a new player that comes with a great one that delivers a better app experience, then that's terrific, so long as they can tie in appropriately into the devices. Well, so the whole idea is to allow innovation on top, right? And that's
right. So Matter then provides the baseline interoperability, like turning the light off and on. How many different ways of doing that do you really need?
Back to those war stories. You'd be surprised how energetic people get on those arguments.
How quickly do you want it turned on? Yeah, I know, but it does make sense to standardize the base stuff, and then have formal procedures for how you build on top of it and build around it.
Yeah,
and that's why.
And the standard allows that, right? I mean, that's understood in terms of how we support developers coming up with new functions and new features that can be built on top of Matter. And really, that's what it's all about. Coming up with great, creative, new ways to deliver meaningful consumer experiences on top of a great baseline interoperability standard.
Yeah, and that brings me to the next question that I hear from folks. They say, well, it's going to take away my differentiation opportunities. I do not agree with that. In fact, I think it's going to increase their ability to innovate on top, as you just described.
Yeah, we have a saying in kind of our development. We call it the highest common denominator.
Ah, I like that.
And we don't want just the lowest, baseline thing. We want the highest one so that people can do really meaningful things on top. And absolutely, it is about the ability of companies to use that to then differentiate from each other on that consumer experience, what the device looks like, how it's built, what functionality it delivers on top of that highest common denominator of interoperability.
So are big companies really serious about depreciating existing ecosystems in favor of Matter?
I think that big companies are sophisticated enough to know how to differentiate their ecosystems with interoperability standards. Fortunately, Matter delivers a great new baseline, but these companies are familiar with working with both within standards organizations, but using baseline interoperability to then figure out other ways to differentiate their consumer experience and delivering better value to their customer base. So I'm not too worried about that, and I know that they've certainly indicated with their support, their announcements, including at CES, of course, at our launch event in November, and most importantly with the support they put behind it, that this is about creating a bigger market where there will be ample room for differentiation.
Indeed, undifferentiated friction benefits no one. Yeah, and that's what characterizes the smart home market today: undifferentiated friction.
That's exactly right. And time to move on.
It is. Rising tide lifts all boats. So I guess just wrapping up, what do you think the next 5 years is going to look like for Matter?
Yeah, I think we're going to get a build out of new market segments. We've already hit a big chunk of devices in the first release. We have on our roadmap many more device types just in the smart home. I think you'll see that kind of then move into smart building, into other interactions that consumers have with devices, whether that's smart health, the way that they interact with their car and mobility. This is really just the beginning. But I think with those changes, I think what you'll see is a move away from kind of the niche market, and we've seen kind of this kind of slow cap in terms of market penetration on smart home, where it'll then really just blossom and go beyond that. And because this has been the thing holding that back. That seamless, frictionless interoperability that needs to occur for consumers to really get benefit. This is a big pain point for consumers. We remove that, we rebuild on top of this seamless interoperability, and that really opens up the whole market. So I think this is where we finally see smart home go mainstream.
Yeah, and we've seen it before. If you look at what happened I mentioned some older interfaces that are on PCs, like USB and PCI Express and all that stuff. Standardizing those plug-and-play interfaces enabled whole new industries to spring up, independent hardware and software vendors. Do you see the same sort of thing perhaps happening?
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, and that's in some ways we don't even know what's going to be next, and others do. I hope so. I hope people are already, and I know they are. They're already developing to this. But really, it is about kind of unleashing that. And if we don't make this step, then we get comfortable in these really kind of closed and narrow-minded views on how technology works, and that's not what it's about.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see the smart home IHVs and ISVs emerge, and that's I think going to help take us from the connected home being a niche market, hobbyists and early adopters, electronics people, that sort of thing, to being a real mass market, mainstream, where you go down and buy things at big box stores and order them from Amazon and you plug them in and it just works. Definitely not the way it happens today, but Matter is going to bring that a lot closer to reality.
And I will say, it's I think we're seeing that transition in that market acceptance, and the building of these standards doesn't happen without a lot of leadership. And it's great to be here with NXP. NXP has been an incredible leader. NXP has been on our board for several years, and that kind of support has been critical to the evolution of the standard, not just because of the people involved, but also the company itself. NXP's experience across a whole host of technologies has really been a differentiator, bringing that into how standards get developed. It is not just about one piece of technology working with another, it is about how all of these integrate together, and NXP is so closely tied to different market segments, being able to bring that in through their customer base, those use cases inside are really important in doing that. And NXP continues to be a leader, not just in Matter, but in other parts of the work that the Connectivity Standards Alliance takes on. So it's a good time and much more work to do.
Indeed. Yeah, you're right about NXP. They were one of the founders of Thread as well. And the same folks have been involved in that for nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
So this goes back a long way. And today, they've come a long way. They now have silicon products that cover, well, I identify 5 different types of devices it takes to build out Matter, from tiny little battery-powered things up to big video-enabled hubs and everything in between. And NXP has silicon that enables all of that. And in many cases with single chip solutions, with multiple radios on the chip. I mean, it's incredible the amount of effort that they've put into this. So the silicon and the platforms are ready to go, or nearly ready to go. And we're going to see that dramatically improve the quality and the price points of the products that become Matter certified. So thanks, Tobin. It's great talking to you. It's wonderful to be here at the time when Matter actually does make a big splash at CES. It's an amazing show this year. But there's more to the story. NXP is doing a lot of other things to help with Matter. A lot of other contributing a lot of other technologies to make Matter a reality. And we're going to be talking about that in a series of other videos here. This is one of them. There will be more.